That was pretty cool. It's like I was looking into infinity. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The most valuable attraction we've made in this league is House Bode, aka House Malister. But welcome everybody to the Game of Thrones podcast. Lewis, I mean, I don't know what you're paying Woad, but it's not enough.
$35. Yeah, no. So that was awesome. I had floated the idea out a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of dropped it in my inbox this past weekend. So like I watched it. Like I think Chelsea was yelling at me or laughing at me or something, one of the two, because I watched it like 8 or 9 times in a row just because I was so pumped up. I missed the theme song. I liked what he did there. He threw everybody on there. Jeremy, rightly so, in third place since he never joins on the podcast. But very well done. So I thank him or her or it or she or whatever for it very much. We have a couple other tricks up our sleeves coming in the next couple of weeks, but that was the first of them, and so I appreciated that very much.
Well, I appreciate you actually, using the proper gender, terms for, House Bode / House Malister. Anyways, like you said, we also have the 4th and 5th spots on there who probably should be 3rd and 4th, frankly, considering how little we've seen of House Reed this year. We've got, it says Travis, although really we know him as Fred. Fred, how we doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me. It's been a while since we've done this.
We're always happy to have you here. And also we have Eric of, the Children of the Forest. And, Eric, it seems like you've been more active in the trade market these days. Maybe it's just GMs, but, it's good to see you being active these days.
Yeah, so I guess we'll get into it later because I got a few trades to talk about. But in reality, we need to talk about this revolutionary beer, Sam 76. It really is revolutionary.
Do we have a sponsor now? This is pretty amazing.
It's good. This is the first time I've ever had it. It's pretty good.
I mean, that's the next step here. So, I mean, I'll tell you what, Lewis, if Woad gets us sponsored, I mean, I'd be willing to pay for his entry fee. So let's get this done.
Oh, here we go. We'll see. He's got all kinds of stuff. I'm telling you, it's or she or it or whatever. Has all kinds of stuff, and I don't know how much time I'll make anybody else put into the league itself, but some of the stuff that some of these guys do is just above and beyond in terms of how impressive it is.
Well, we'll see if we can bring ourselves up to that same level of impressiveness. Anyways, speaking of impressive, this was an impressive week in terms of moving. Frankly, we've got ourselves what looks like a relatively, called out set of standings at this point. It's been kind of muddled the last couple of weeks, but after the interdivisional matchups before it goes back to in-divisional matchups, it seems like we've actually seen some teams separate from the back and have a playoff picture emerging. Real quick, just kind of going through the results from the week. Again, we'll come back to each of these in detail, especially the more important ones. But I got the win over Lewis. Evan got the big win over House Reed. Harding defeated Bolton. Umber over Egan. No surprise there. Forrester almost doubled up on Baelish. Very, very tight win for House Greyjoy over Free Folk. Holy shit, that might be the closest that we've ever seen. Malister with a big win over Night's Watch. White Walkers with exactly 100 points. That's an impressive feat. Doubling up on Brotherhood. Eric with a win over Tully, Santi with a win over Targaryen, which is funny because I think Targaryen won the other 3 against the Essos and Dorne Conference. So, good to see the epic 3 or 4 way actually stand up and do something against this division. Faceless beating down Swan to the point where we may need to call local services. Fell doubling up on Sand Snakes. Bulwer over Casterly, Cockshaw over Lannister. So Lannister finally getting his first loss. Banefort beating down a Hightower and taking his rightful place tied for his division. And last but not least, Payne beating Tyrell, who put up a pathetic 84.46 points. Really, putting into question whether he can actually compete this year. So, anyway, take a look at quick standings. That puts Forrester 3 games ahead of Umber in the north. Greyjoy's 2 games up on Mallister in Riverlands. Harding is the last undefeated team, 3 games up on Royce. Beyond the Wall, Free Folk, again, losing their first game, is now just a game ahead of Children. He has the tiebreaker, but again, we're back in divisions this week, so very good chance for Eric to make that up. In the fire side of things, Targaryen's 2 games up on Lewis, but again, a 3-0 record. Reach is still a bit of a clusterfuck. Cockshaw's 4-3, but with Tyrell and Hightower 3-4, it's still everyone's division. Essos and Dorne, I'm 5-2 with Faceless at 4-3. And then last but not least, we have Westerlands with 2 6-1 teams and 2 teams who aren't going to make the playoffs. So Lannister and Banefort are going to fight that one out. Anyways, that's the high-level side of things. Lewis, is there something in particular you want to dive into first?
No, I just throw out a disclaimer. I think Fred had asked something about all-time records, so maybe we can hit on that, or he can hit on that real quick. He had asked me to link some things, so I went ahead and did that, and it was real stupid. I was logged in as the commissioner, and it was like, the commissioner needs to link this shit, and I was like, what do you think I'm on this page for? But I think I've got it linked. So for whatever, I don't know if Fred wants to talk about what he was looking into or what that page is, but we could probably start there.
I was really just trying to see if I had ever beaten Freefolk, and that was the first time. If it manages to hold up on stat corrections, that was I was 0-1 against him historically, but I had to muddle through the previous years of the league to look at them one at a time because 2017 wasn't showing up correctly. But I still don't see it there correctly. It says on the all-time records page, it says all defunct franchises are 0-17 for 2017.
Yeah, what the hell? I have no idea. Maybe I've got to retry this, but I swear to God I linked it. And it went all the way back to 2016, and I don't know why it skipped on 2017. So I'll play with that some more. But it really is a cool feature. You can go back and forth here, I think, between different teams and see. Like, I was 0-2 in 2016 against Targaryen, 0-1 this year, 1-1 against Swan. So it's kind of cool that they're able to track this. I don't know if this is a newer feature or not. I've never even looked into it until you suggested that I link it. So I'll also play with that and see it, because that's a nice thing to have, because that was one of the things I started doing it for certain individuals and kind of like went down a rabbit hole with it in terms of like all-time records across multiple leagues and stuff like that. But there's some like historically bad teams in here, so I want to make sure that those get highlighted at some point. So I'll probably use that page a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had there if it's all up to date and working correctly.
Other than that, we can probably dive into. I mean, right now, I think the playoff pictures are kind of interesting, so maybe we can touch on that. I think in some of these divisions on the ice side of things, I can't imagine anybody winning the North other than Forrester. I can't imagine anybody winning Riverlands and Irelands other than Greyjoy. The Vale, I think, is already locked up there with House Harding. The really only place of contention is Beyond the Wall. Two pony race with Eric and Free Folk, and Eric can probably touch on this a little bit more himself in regards to who he plays this week, how he feels his team is going to match up against Free Folk. Are you playing Free Folk this week?
No, I got White Walkers this week,
Okay.
but I'm getting hit with bye weeks bad, and right now it looks like I'm starting Josh Reynolds, which is not the best option.
Yeah, probably not. It's one of those. It feels like a must-win thing, and like that's Mike and I had that matchup this week, where both of us needed to win. I'm still fucking pissed I lost to Sand Snakes last week. Someone at work had asked, like, how was fantasy football this week? I was like, I don't even give a shit about this week. I'm still pissed about last week losing to an 0-6 or 0-5 team by 1.4 points because Bethard throws an interception. Gets me the win, and then Green Bay hands the ball off to Jamal Williams for 14 yards in the very next play, and I lose on that. So that's how I'm so bitter about that. And so it takes a pretty significant blow on the playoff standings for the Fire side. I think that the ice is pretty cut and dry. I think it's going to be, like I said, Forster, Greyjoy, Harding. One of Free Folk and Children are going to win the division there. The other one's going to probably get the wild card for best record, and then total points over there, or points for. I mean, looks like House Woad. Yeah, unless
Mallister.
Yeah, then sorry, Mallister instead of Woad. My bad.
Yep.
Looks like he's got the points for wild card. I'm not even sure if he's aware of that.
It's pretty tight. It's just because has the lead now. There's a bunch of teams in the low 800s, high 700s that have a chance. Royce and I are both 775. White Walkers 750. House Tully 760. So they're all close.
I think you're going to take the first one though, Eric. So I'm not too concerned about your points for, because I think in terms of record, you're probably going to wrap that up. The only other.
Well, the thing is, I might lose this week because I have three bye week players and Freeman's on the IR, so I might not be able to beat White Walkers, and then Free Folk, he probably has the edge against me unless he has bye week. So that's 2 out of 3 losses in the next 3 weeks probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody in the North other than Forrester probably finishing with a winning record. That really leaves Mallister and Royce as your main competition for wins. Royce probably gets 2 easy ones with Baelish and Egan, but that third one against Harding is probably a loss. It'll be interesting. Probably we'll have to, again, which is kind of a fun part of the league, is the winter doubleheaders at the end of the year probably going to have a massive impact on the wild card, the last wild card spot over there, or the first wild card spot over there in ice.
Eric, why have you not IR'd Freeman yet?
I thought he was coming back. I thought it was just a hoax.
He could still come back.
There are a bunch of those things where I'm like, why are people not just IRing, making the moves, and giving themselves some space? But it is what it is. And then in Fire, I think.
Really, you're asking this question?
What's up?
You're asking this question? You have 2 guys in your active roster who are IR eligible.
Yeah, I have maxed out IR spots though.
Do you really need to keep Hugh McGilly?
Yes, absolutely. I guess I could move him to my tax and then I can get from there. Yeah, you got to keep Fat Rob. I paid a lot for Fat Rob, so I got to keep him.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of irrelevant players, did you guys see that Mo Cox had a catch for the Colts this week?
Mo Cox!
And the other irrelevant players. Did you see the dude in Carolina? And Fred's probably the only one old enough to remember who this guy is.
Caruth?
Yeah. Did you see that he got released and then people tried to customize Carolina jerseys and with his name on it? Like the dude was arrested for gunning down his girlfriend or fiance or something at the time, and he
was arrested in the trunk of a car, if I remember correctly. Trying to get away after hiring a hitman to kill her.
Yeah, so absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, so Fireside, I think I wanted to say it was probably a little more cut and dry over here in terms of what teams are actually in the race. But I could be 100% wrong. I don't think anybody's catching Targaryen even as much as I'd like to. I had two really good chances to gain some ground on him, and the other playoff teams in my conference in the last 2 weeks, and the two losses really killed me. I don't think by any means that my season's over, but it's one of those things where Targaryen lost this week. I needed to win. If I would have fucking won last week, I'd have been in a way better spot than what I am now. But I don't think I'm going to catch Targaryen. We'll see. Fell's had some good weeks. Swan's had some good weeks. I've also had good weeks. So I mean, it could go the way where Targaryen, depending on matchups, could lose 3, but he could also win all 3. But I just don't feel like I'm going to catch him. Mike, you commented on the reach already. It's a clusterfuck. I think Cockshaw is going to come out of there. I think we all had Hightower as a favorite, but just getting crushed with injury to the quarterback position. Then Marcus Mariota is terrible, and then not being able to get the right guys in place. I even though it's a little close, I think Mike's probably above and beyond the best team in Essos and Dorne. So I think he'll hold out long term there. I'm really hoping that Lannister kind of crashes here. This is make my playoff push a little bit more realistic. Is if Lannister lost a couple games here in the next couple of weeks, because I'm probably not going to catch Bainford at 6-1, and I'm not sure he's going to lose, especially with almost 1,000 points for. My bet would be on Lannister losing some, and that's probably the only way I get the first wild card spot with wins. The points for wild card spot over here is kind of a tight race. I think I have it right now by 3 points.
18.
No, it's by 3 points. Hightower's got 835, so it's Hightower by 3, and then Swan. I've got it. So there's 2-3 teams there that are within 20 points of that points for spot, which also I didn't mind losing this week to Mike, but if I was going to lose, I at least wanted to score fucking points, and I didn't score points, so it was a double whammy this week, which really sucked.
Yeah, and one thing you should bring up is that Lannister has like a cakewalk of a division. Like Bainford, he might probably lose, but the other two are almost guaranteed wins. Meanwhile, you have to fight it out in your division where all the teams are at least competitive. So, I mean, at this point, it's going to be very tough. And you got my division. You got Beyond the Wall in the interconference. So you have no easy matchups the rest of the way. No easy teams. Maybe Night's Watch is your easiest team.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not terrible. I mean, 1-6, but he's been scoring points.
Exactly. That's what. And then if you look at Lannister's division, where he's got 2 free wins there, and whoever he plays in the ice is probably another 2 free wins, depending on what division.
He's got Harding, Royce, Baelish, and Egan. So
Baelish and Egan is the other 2 wins.
Yeah. So
you're not catching him.
Yeah, I mean, I probably don't like my chances of, but if I had to bet, it would be Lannister that chokes and not Bainford. We'll see, because I don't think Lannister has the depth. Derek Carr, not the greatest. CJ Beathard, and then the running backs, he's kind of got to pick and choose the right one each week there. So I'm hoping maybe that'll bite him one week. But you never know. Things happen. People lose to 0-5 teams like how Sand makes it messes up. So maybe somebody will be as lucky as I am. And we can just flip the here and talk about the best teams. I'm Banner. I'm thinking trying that. It is 0-7 and it's going to be considered. You look at the points and see that he's at 502, 4, and 7. And compare it to a house of the Shrek Deegan that are like actively seeing their guys point or don't have enough people on rosters. It kind of ridiculous.
Lewis, hold on.
So, Lewis, I have no idea what you just said because literally it was a second break between every other syllable. So, you are yes.
I don't know what I was talking about. Yeah. It's so. Is it good?
Yeah, it sounded like it's breaking up a little bit here. So I'm not
It's
sure
you
that
literally
you can do.
you can't hear a word, Lewis. It's horrible. It sounds like you're going through a tunnel while you're on the cell phone.
On a time. All right, give me a
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, to your point, we can go ahead and kind of jump at the fire side here. Like you said, I think it actually, you know what? There's not much to jump at. It's there's a lot of still to be determined on the fire side. I think kind of like in past years. There are a couple of divisions that are pretty well baked out on the ice side. Fire side, it's a little bit more up in the air. But something that we really haven't focused on the last couple of pods that I think would be fun to kind of spend some time here is trades. The last month, we've had some interesting deals go down. Just pulled them up about 14 thus far. And one, I know, two of them involve our friend, the Children of the Forest. One to get Josh Reynolds for a third, and another to get Devonta Freeman, who just got put on IR, as well as Austin Carr for Carlos Hyde and Zay Jones. So since you're involved with two of these deals, any thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, I also got James White from Baelish. So there's 3 different trades that I did recently.
Yeah, definitely.
I've never been the volume trader that some of you guys are, but I always make moves throughout the year. I don't stop. But yeah, so to start with the first one with who was it? It was Royce. How's Royce? We were talking, and he was trying to get somebody. And I was like, throw in Josh Reynolds. And he was like, nah, I don't think I want to make that deal. And I said, well, I viewed Josh Reynolds as a third. And like the next day, he messaged me. He's like, wait, did you say Josh Reynolds is worth a third? And I said, yeah, it's worth a third. And so when he just sent me the trade, I was like, all right, well, that was easy. So it wasn't really a negotiation. We were actually trying to make another deal involving bigger players, and that just came from it.
Makes sense. Sometimes that happens. That you don't get the big deal, but the small deal comes. Then you also have with Baelish a deal for James White, who I know definitely wouldn't trigger Lewis about James White being traded from Baelish.
Right. I think I owe Lewis the primary assist on that trade, because so I messaged Baelish and I was like, listen, I want White. I don't think I have what you want. And so he looked at my team and he said, how about a second? I said, that's more than fair. I would definitely do a second. And he just sent the trade. And, but I didn't know what happened behind closed doors, but apparently Lewis beat him into submission to the point where he just wanted to give him to anybody else. So thank you, Lewis. I appreciate that.
Am I still lagging?
Nope, we can hear you now. Good.
All right, well, he's fucking retarded, so I don't even want to talk about that trade. I was offering a first and play like a Nunois and a first, and like it was just stupid. I was also asking those part of the deal for Wendell Smallwood, who he then gave me 2 for a third. So I was like, Wendell Smallwood, James White for a first and another player, and it was like declined, and he wouldn't even counter it, which was just driving me insane, because I was like, I know I'm in the ballpark. I know at this point, like originally I was in the ballpark probably offering like around a second round pick in terms of value. I didn't have a second round pick. Had I had one, I would have just fucking sent it to him. But it's like it's not the first time that this kind of stupid shit has happened between me and him, where like he wanted to trade Cameron Brate, and I was like, all right, Cameron Brate's like worth a third rounder. I'll give you a third. I didn't have one for 2018. I sent it 2019. He declines it because he doesn't want it, because he wants a current 20 whatever third round pick, which is just like, it's one of those stupid things in terms of value. Like he just nitpicks. He's extra picky with me, and then someone else offers him something less, and he'll take that first try. So I have no idea. But I was super pissed about James White. I'm sure you're super happy about it. It's a looking like a solid pickup, because Michelle is down. And Gronk didn't play this week, so in terms of a dump-off security blanket, James White is probably a really good option moving forward.
Yeah, and just to wrap up my trades, the last one is probably the most interesting one. It was actually the first one I made chronologically. Was with my division leader, Free Folk, in which we swapped Freeman, and I gave him Hyde and Zay Jones, and he gave me some receiver I don't know, and also gave me Devonta Freeman. And so Hyde really hasn't done much. Then he got traded, so he was inactive. Freeman went to the IR, so it's some RB2s that really aren't panning out for both of us, and we swapped them, and I guess he's got the better shot of getting production this year, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be great.
Fair enough. Let's see. And going through here, we've also got Greyjoy with a deal here. Paying up for Jared Cook.
Yes.
With everything that you've seen and Cooper being moved, I got to imagine you're feeling better about this, although Ito Smith seems to be gaining ground in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where I didn't pay much for Ito Smith, so I was okay to move him. But I convinced Bolton that Smith is worth a second, and I think he probably is. He, at least at the time of the trade, today he might be worth a little bit more than that, maybe a pair of seconds. He's been, this was before Freeman went on IR, and I needed somebody who I thought was going to be a little more consistent, giving me week-to-week points. And I don't know that Cook is really that guy, but shit, going forward, he should be.
Very well could be. And then probably my favorite of this, and again, this is only my favorite because of pure hindsight. So this, obviously at the time, I think everyone felt a little bit different about this, but the Payne Umber trade, or well, I guess at the time it was Payne Stark, but Payne Umber now. Trubisky, Martavis, and a second for Rosen, Pettis, and a third. And current view, I would probably argue that every piece Payne gave is at a higher value than what Umber gave up. Again, Rose can easily turn it around. Brian could flame out, again, things like that. But it's one of those that at the point in time the deal was made, I don't think anyone was shaking really an eyebrow at it. Whereas now it's kind of like, maybe this doesn't look so well for House Payne. But again,
yeah, you're right. That one's asked backwards, and I think that came after Trubisky's 60-point game. In terms of the timing,
Should have been, yeah.
I think it came the week that following week, and I think Payne was like, "Shit, I'm trying to tank. I don't want the points." And then just instead of calmly and coolly trying to sell high on him, just kind of was like, "Shit, I'm gonna send whatever I need to ship him off of my team." I think that's what happened there, because the picks probably need swapped. The second probably needs to be on the Rosen side right now, and even then. But yeah, I thought that was a funny one from the get-go. Which was part of the thing where I was like, because obviously we don't have House Stark anymore, and it was because of this particular trade and failing to pay for it and then making a big stink about it. That if you reversed it, Stark would probably be more pissed that I reversed it than I would have just been, haggling him to actually pay. But I don't know. I didn't even ask Payne in terms of reversing it. I just felt that reversing the trade wouldn't be fair to really anybody or the league or any of that stuff. I just really don't like to get involved in that kind of shit. And in terms of the payment, it's really, it's $35. You're gonna pay. You're gonna play anyways. You might as well fucking pay. Yeah, interesting trade. I don't know. I think I cut off on what's his face, Eric's first trade about Josh Reynolds. I just thought, and I just wanted to say, because I don't know what you guys said, because I was trying to reset my internet or fix my connection here so I didn't lag. But I thought that was a smart little move by Eric. I'm not sure that Reynolds, right now is a pretty good option, but the rest of the wide receivers on LA have been banged up, so I thought that was a cheap little sneaky get by Eric.
Oh, for sure. Again, especially considering the state of that receiving core. Although it seems like everyone's kind of coming back to form at this point, but still, being the fourth player in a in a scheme like that is definitely worth a third. Anyways, like we said, we're back to the schedule where we're interdivision again. So let's take a quick look at some of the big matchups this week. Starting from the top, we've got Reed with a slight advantage over Umber. Forrester with a big spread over Bolton. Same with Greyjoy and Brother Without Banners.
Yeah, but Forrester's missing a few players, and he's got them all on bye and still winning by double.
Although my favorites thus far would be Royce, who is a 62-point favorite over Baelish, and Harding, who's a 93-point favorite over Egan. Just to put that in perspective, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teams did not score 93 points last week. So about, not quite half, but maybe, a third of the league in terms of the total scoring last week had less scoring than what Harding is favored over Egan by. So that's, good times. Probably the game of the week might have to be Free Folk versus Night's Watch. I don't think either really, are bad teams. I think Free Folk might be getting caught on a tough week, but he's holding on to that division by a thread. And if Eric can pull even with him, although he's a 14-point underdog right now,
both teams still have a player listed on bye, so that will change a little bit. But yeah, I did my part.
No, definitely, but I'd say that's probably probably game of the week from a winning perspective. From a, I guess, other side of the coin perspective, Reed versus Umber is going to be interesting, I think, because both are in the wild card hunt from the record perspective, but neither necessarily jumps out as a team that I would be scared of in the playoffs.
When you say in the hunt, you really just mean they're not yet eliminated?
Basically.
Okay.
Well, again, that's kind of what it's always been. It's always been, Fire's been more of a cluster in terms of who's in, who's out, with maybe one or two teams who's really out of it, whereas Ice has been more, there's 6 to 8 teams who are like, holy shit, I don't want to play that team. And then 6 teams of, okay, that team is playing for the future. And it's still kind of the same setup this year.
Even though we don't have Jeremy here, did we go over his did he sell it all for the playoff push yet?
It's about that time, isn't it?
It really is. He's almost 500, and so I wonder if he's finally sticking with his picks or if he's looking to do something else.
He made his Sonny Michel move, which I thought was like an attempt for him to rebuild, also at the same time like compete. And so now Michel's out. I don't know if they said how long he's out, but probably doesn't play next week. At least I know. And then moving forward, I'm not sure how many weeks he misses. But I thought it was real funny. Green Bay played, was it Sunday night or Monday night in the primetime one of these last couple of weeks? And so Jeremy had like 20 or 30 points going in to that like last or one of the last games. So I was like, oh, he's gonna get shit like crushed. And then you look and he's got like 7 Green Bay Packers all from that one game. So it looks like I guess he's gonna go as Green Bay goes. Then I haven't watched enough of Green Bay to know if their offense has been good enough to where it's gonna carry his fantasy team. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the team's a little bit clustered. I mean, if you got to start Taylor Gabriel and Goodwin and Charles Clay, and you probably aren't going to compete, but I think Reed is going to give it a go. I think he's going to try.
We shall see. But again, like you had said, Eric has the 2-game advantage of them for the record side of things. And then from a point side of things, he's behind by close to 100, especially if Malister hangs on. So who knows? Anyways, we're at the halfway point. So this is the fun part. So get those trades in. Get anyone who wants to win now. Let's get some win now trades for those who are going for the future. Let's start selling and let's get some action going. This is the fun part.
Yes. I also want to cheer on House Fell, so I'm looking at the matchups. I finally figured out how to get this stupid page to load. Fell's taking on Targaryen, and Targaryen is going to be without Matt Ryan, who surprisingly is a really good fantasy contributor this week. He'll get Ben Roethlisberger back. It'll be interesting to see if Gronk suits up or not this week. If he doesn't, Targaryen's in trouble because he's
better
green. Because right now this is looking like Fell with an upset. I don't know what Jermaine Kearse got a donut last week. I'm not even sure why he's in anybody's starting lineup, regardless of however many points he's projected. And then Fell also has the 2 tight ends, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not sure if that was a planned thing or that's from last week and he hasn't set a lineup yet. And speaking of the 2 tight end things, this just brought back flashback terrible memories of my matchup 2 weeks ago against Santa Snakes. We didn't podcast the week after that, but I wanted to comment that I was watching up until the kickoff. At one point, he had 2 tight ends in there as well, which is what triggered this. He had Niles Paul, is it, or whoever is the tight end that was playing behind ASG in Jacksonville or ASJ, but that guy got hurt after his first catch. Sand Snakes had started to set his lineup 4 or 5 times prior to kickoff when I played him, and I went back and checked, and I would have beat him on every single lineup he submitted until the prior one. So he submitted it right at the deadline, got that lineup in, and that was the only one that beat me. So that pisses me off even more.
That'll happen. All right. I think that kind of covers what we wanted to touch on. Anything else you guys want to discuss while we've got the mic going?
Let me think.
How about the race for the first pick? We didn't discuss that.
Yeah, that's what
Is that also the race for who gets Castamered?
There is no race for the first pick. Let's be honest about this. Look at the power ranking list here, and Egan is ahead by almost 100 points.
Yeah, Egan's getting the first one, and then I think it's Baelish and somebody else might be in contention, but I think it's Baelish for that next one. But that's what I wanted to hit on when I was cutting out and lagging or whatever that was earlier. Flip the script a little bit because we had been talking about the teams that were doing really well, and I still wanted to talk about some of the teams that are doing historically bad. I want to go back and kind of look through because I know I was historically bad with 0-14 last year. I don't know what I finished the season in terms of total points, but these guys have to be really, really close to it. And it was one of those things where I was like, and not to be mean to anybody, but 2 of these teams are purposely trying to be really bad, like Baelish and Egan. And then there's Brotherhood sitting there at 0-7 that hasn't won a game, and it's really only 50 points off of those 2. How bad his team actually has to be, considering that I think he's trying to win games. I don't know why he wouldn't be. He doesn't make any trades to move, an Isaiah Crowell or anybody off of his team. So that's one of the ones I just wanted to talk about. Teams that we might think that are probably in a pretty bad place, and I think Brotherhood is probably in a worse place than Baelish and Egan.
Yeah, no, but to your point, he's in a worse place, but he's still close to 100 points ahead of him on the overall points potential point standpoint. So it's going to be impossible, really, without a hardcore tanking effort to catch Egan. But I definitely think BWOB and Baelish have a close race for that second 101.
Yeah. So, and then I think Sand Snake's team is really, 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 really bad. Maybe Le'Veon Bell comes back and saves that, but I think his team is off the cliff. I've talked about it before. Him, Forrester, some other guys that play on that cliff. This one I think went off, and I don't think it's salvageable. The quarterbacks are terrible. The running backs are old. McCoy, I think, got hurt again and got 0.1 points this past week. That one's almost as well, like in that same category. Bell coming back will probably save it and maybe hide that fact a little bit, but that team's in bad places too. Is there, I mean, other than probably Sand Snakes, that's probably going to be what Mike's answer to this question is, because I think Mike had Sand Snakes team a little bit higher, higher in the rankings before the season started. Is there any teams here, like good or bad, it doesn't matter on which end, that have surprised you guys at this point in the season, the halfway point here? Is there anybody that you were like, damn, like didn't think they were going to be good, or I thought these guys were going to be good and they have no wins or 2 wins or whatever?
Let me jump right in here. Without kissing your ass too much, Lewis, I was expecting you to shit the bed again, because that's all I've ever seen in every league I've been in with you, and I don't have the history that some of the other people have, but I wasn't expecting you to be able to turn it around as well as you have.
Hey, it should look better on paper. It's stupid. I think all 3 of my losses are could have wons, which makes me even more upset. I'm still bitter about. I mean, I'm not gonna argue losing to Bank or Targaryen, 2 of the better teams in the league. I just wish I would have had better weeks. I think those when I played those are the 2 best teams that I've played all season so far, and then matching up against them, those were the two weeks that my team just didn't make it to 100 points, and that I built my team specifically to make it to 100 points. And so it has, and it's actually been up around 120, 100, 130 on the weeks that I've won. And so it was a little disappointing when you lay an egg against two of probably the best, the good matchups that you have on your schedule. So I'm hoping that bad luck changes the second half of the season, and I go up against, Eric and Ham and even White Walkers, I guess. So I hope that I can actually put up over 100 points and make it the type of matchup I think it should be. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with some of the guys. Some of them I was trying to buy. I think I got a little bit lucky with some of these guys. But Adam Thielen was one that I've owned 3 or 4 times, so I wanted to make sure I had him this year. I didn't think he'd be the wide receiver 1. I thought he'd be good, but 162 points from him has been really helpful. And then there's just been other guys like Deshaun Jackson stepped up. Some of my running backs, I've been able to flex the right ones. But thank you for picking me. I don't know if anybody.
I got a choice.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, his record isn't that great, but if you look at House Hightower's roster, it is stacked. I mean, he got a little unfortunate. He's got Jimmy Garoppolo, Hunter Henry, and also Marshawn Lynch all on IR. But if you look at this team, he's got Mahomes, who looks like an MVP candidate already. He has running backs and receivers on this team that are all solid guys. And he's got Ertz at tight end, and he's got Henry on IR. So he's scoring a lot of points even though he's not getting wins. And just from a roster construction standpoint, next year he's going to have one of the most stacked rosters. And last year we were all laughing at him.
Yeah, he's looking.
I'll say my favorite stat right now is if you look at the power ranks page, you've got the coulda won and woulda lost, and there are 4 teams with 0 coulda wons and 0 woulda lost. Hardy, who's 7-0, so that kind of explains itself. Reed at 0-0, and then Bolton and Egan at 0-0. So again, it's kind of for the teams that are doing what they're doing. You get the the Egans of the world in last place who are trying to build for the future. Harding, who is trying to build for now, who's 0-0. But the one that kind of surprises me there is Reed, is the fact that someone who tends to push in to go for the win for the playoffs has 0 could have win, and then by that same point, 0 would have lost at the same time.
So all that means is that no matter what roster he would have played that week, he was going to win or lose.
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, but it's, whoever brought up Hightower, I don't know if it was Eric or anybody, but Marcus Mariota, I think, has absolutely killed him there. He was hurt, had some injuries. He has the injury to their third quarterback there, Jimmy Garoppolo. But yeah, on paper, I think this was a team that somebody picked as a contender with Banefort in terms of this side. And one of the things I had said is one of the problems is when you pick this kind of depth is picking the right guys and getting the right guys. And I think he was expecting bigger things from David Johnson, and maybe that's the reason that the record's not as pretty as it is. But for a while there, he wasn't starting Robert Woods, and you're talking about 118 points. Robert Woods needs to be in your lineup. And so I think
he's Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's Mahomes is 1, Jimmy is 2, and Mariota is 3. So,
right.
Injury sucks.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it was one of those things where I think just in terms of the lineup, now his decisions get a little bit more difficult because I think Marshawn Lynch was his number 1 producing running back. I guess David Johnson is caught up and is now the number 1, but like he was counting probably on Marshawn Lynch to fill the very least a flex spot, if not a starting spot in that lineup. And so now he went on the IR with the Raiders pulling a I don't even know who I would compare the Raiders to here. I was going to say Egan, but I don't even think it's the Raiders are probably worse than that with what they've got going on now. But yeah, so that's definitely a surprise, and that's a good one to hit on there. Hightower isn't atop his division, but not only that, he's in the third place his division. And I don't think he's going to end there. I think him and Tyrell are definitely going to flop. I'm just not sure if there's enough there, especially with the move that Cox got. Did we talk about that move in your trade section? I got up and again was fixing my internet, and so did we talk about the trade that Cockshot pulled a couple hours ago?
No, we haven't really touched on that yet. Michelle and Landry going to Cockshaw for Baker Mayfield, who I think was that team's 101, if I remember correctly.
No, I think Mayfield didn't go any higher than
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Barkley went 101. I think Mayfield was his 102. Yes. So Cockshaw took him at 104.
Yeah. So this gives Cockshaw now. I'll just throw this out there. Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, 1-2. His running backs are banged up, but in terms of long-term outlook, Fournette and Michelle, Devontae Adams, Jarvis Landry, Demaryius Thomas, Will Fuller. This is a pretty good. I don't see anybody else. Christian Kirk's on here, but I don't think you're starting him. But this gives him a good little bit. And then he's got Isaiah Crowell, who's actually been either 30 points or 5 points. So I think he's due for 30 points next week. What to check on that. But that's a pretty good outside of tight end now. Tight end's hurting. He needs to figure out tight end. But that puts together a really good core that I don't even think that Hightower can catch.
No, it's definitely going to be tough. And, I mean, he's a game back, so you don't want to knock anybody out at this point. But,
It definitely makes the points for them more interesting because if somebody does catch Cockshaw, then he would jump into the points for spot currently, and then with that lineup that he has, that's a lineup that's going to score points. So quarterbacks that are going to throw for yards. So it'll be definitely interesting next couple of weeks in terms of the playoff picture, and then. This will be week 8, so we'll have week 8, 9, and 10 of divisional play, and then we'll have winter starting 11 and 12 right before we lock things down for playoffs. So we still have a good bit of time. I think there's some other leagues where trade deadlines are approaching. I don't know if they're my leagues or other leagues I'm in, but I think I have started to see the trade deadline notice appear in some leagues. But just for everybody's sake here, just a reminder that won't kick in until the Wednesday. I think I have it at Thursday prior to kickoff for that Week 13 game. So it'll be the Thursday prior to our playoffs being kicked off. So we still have a couple more weeks. For those of you that want to hold out hope and think that you're going to compete, House Read, you have a couple more weeks to decide if you want to sell or go for it.
Yeah, and I think these next 3 weeks are going to be really interesting for that division in particular, because those teams are all so clustered together that if anybody can put together a 2-1 or a 3-0 out of that group, they'll pretty much come out of it as the winner.
So that actually brings up a good point. I don't know. We're probably right around an hour, so maybe we'll wrap things up unless somebody else has a point after this. So looking at the divisional record from the last go around, we have Forest 3-0. Does anybody? I mean, are we putting that as a 6-0?
You'd have to, right?
I think so. We've got Greyjoy at 3-0, which I want to say would make you 6-0, but for whatever reason, I think you're going to come out of there 5-1.
Yeah, I think there's some bye week issues, and I'm just going to get caught by somebody at one week of these.
Yeah, so I think you'll be 5-1 there. Harding, I think, is going to be another 3-0 going through there. I don't think Free Folk's going to be 3-0 going through his division a second time, so I think he'll at the very least be 2-1, which should help Eric. But then again, at the same time, I'm not sure Eric is going to be 3-0 either. So I think there's going to be some beating up of teams in the Beyond the Wall there. And in this go around, I don't think there's going to be any clean sweeps through there the second time. Targaryen, I think we already touched on, has a really tough one this week with Fell. I'm hoping that he's got some other tough ones in the weeks to come. So I'm hoping that he at least loses one and maybe even 2. That would be awesome. So that'll be interesting to see. Tyrell surprisingly went 3-0 the first time through the division, which is funny. So he went 3-0 and is now on a 4-game losing streak. So bravo. I don't think he's going 3-0. If anybody is, it'd be Cockshaw, but I think the Cockshaw, like Hightower team's good. I haven't looked into the bye matchups of that one, so I'm not sure anybody goes 3-0 there. We've got Bank in Essos and Dorn. I know that Mike likes to stay humble, but I think that Mike's going to go 6-0 through that division again. I just don't think anybody there. Now, Santee picked up a quarterback, but he paid a lot to do it, so I don't think that I'm as worried about him as I was. The only real scare there would be Le'Veon Bell coming back and Mike having to go up against Sand Snakes when Bell is active. But I don't think Bell. They keep rumoring that he's going to show up. I honestly don't think he's showing up until week 10. He'll show up on the Friday at 4:30. Which is the latest he can report. He'll be inactive for that week 10 game. So you really probably Sand Snakes really is only going to get Le'Veon Bell this Sand Snakes and Swan, that is, are probably only going to have Le'Veon Bell for week 11 and week 12, giving them the potential to win 3-4 games those weeks, and that's not going to be enough for Sand Snakes. And it's probably not going to be enough for Swan, but I don't want to write her off quite yet. So I don't think there's much to worry about in that division. And then I don't think Lannister goes 3-0 in his. So I just thought that was interesting. We'll touch on those because those teams went 3-0 the first go around. So I think of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that went 3-0, I think there's a solid 3 of them that'll actually go 3-0 this time.
That seems about right. I think the attrition has taken effect, and there will be bye weeks during some of these games. So it's really tough to go 6-0 in an entire year.
Yeah. I don't have anything else unless anybody else has anything. I'm on the wrong page here, so we'll flip back over.
I was just going to point out some difference between last year and this year. At this point in 2017, we had 7 teams that had over 900 potential points. In 2018, there are 9 teams with 900 potential points, and another 1, 2, 3, 7 teams that are already over 1,000. So it's almost double the number of teams that have scored 900 points this year. Scoring is up amazingly over all of my leagues.
Well, it's potential points, right?
The new rules, the new, emphasis, but it's almost stupid.
Yeah, points are up. I'm trying to think of what else was up. I think points are up here, but wins are down, which is like in terms of like teams, like if you threshold like at 5 wins, I think we had more teams the previous year that were above 5 wins than what we do right now. I was looking into that, and because I think there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's only 13 teams that have a winning record in here at this point. I think there was actually less last week. I can't remember if someone posted it or not. It might have been Mike counting. I think there were only like 7 or 8 teams last week that had winning records. So that we've gotten a couple more added to the group this week. But the teams that do have the teams of those 13, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that could lose a game this week, and you're back down to only 8 teams having a winning record beyond the halfway point of the season, which I think is just absolutely stupid to how close things actually are.
All right, so let's do the thing, boys. That kind of wraps things up, and we've got week 8 ahead of us. So, anyone else have anything before we close?
Awesome. Nope. I think we're good until next time.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, and take it easy.
It's revolutionary.
Oh, here we go.
So how was that?